Okay, welcome to the third part of this tutorial, which I'm going to show how to combine GC and Excel. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new Excel sheet, and I'm going to save it in the same file, in the same folder where I save my DGN file. So I have to go in the same place, and I'm going to call it data. The reason that I'm doing this is because if we save it in the same place, I'm going to show you how GC calls Excel, and doing it that way, if we move the location of that folder, is always, as long as the two files be together, GC is gonna be able to read it and it's gonna be able to work. So the first thing that I'm gonna do here is in the first column, I'm gonna call it ID component. Here I'm gonna call it H, since it was the first variable that I have for my component. This one I'm gonna call it XD, which was the X dimension of my component. It's gonna be XY is the XY dimension of the component. But since I have two rows of components, I'm gonna do it twice. This is gonna be easier. And here in the last, I'm going just to add one column more. So I'm just gonna add here one column, and I'm gonna call volume. This is a value that I'm going to read from GC. And so let's change the colors here so we can differentiate a little bit. In gray, I'm gonna use gray for the columns of that I'm going to extract data from GC, and I'm gonna use just a green one, light green. That are the volumes that I'm gonna type here. So for this one, let's type here ID component. We're gonna use here H. Let's call H2. Let's call XD2, XY2, and here volume 2. I'm gonna use the green for these ones, and let's do gray here. So now that we have created our Excel sheet and we save it in the same place, in the same folder, let's close it, because I think that GC is not going to be able to. GC is going to open for us the file, so let's close it and let's go to GC. So now let's add let's extract these numbers, the ID numbers of our components, into our GC, into our Excel file. So the way to do it is, let's go to new feature. Let's go to Excel range, and we're going to use the option write value. Here's the first thing that we have to type is the location of our file, our Excel file. So the reason that I say that we should save it in the same location is so we can use this code. That means that GC is gonna look for the same location as our DGN file. So we have to do that, and then the next thing is just to type the name of our file, which in my case is XLS. Is that one. And if you don't know where is your file, so the other thing that you can do is hit the green button and go to Files, go to C, and find the location of your file. So mine would be in Users, my name, Desktop, XLSX, and I have to hit Insert. So let's just delete all this, and that's it. And let's hit OK. The sheet name is Excel files have, the sheet has name. I didn't change it, so if you don't change it, should be sheet 1. The range is Excel. Let me open an Excel. The range in Excel is, I'm gonna tell it to start in the A3. Since it's the one, let me open the file quickly. So I'm gonna start here in the A3, and I'm gonna end in exactly in the same number, in the same quantity of features that I create. So for doing that, I have to do it in a dynamic way. So I have to tell GC to start in A3, and it's going to finish in A plus, sorry, and I'm going to use the quantity of points, since it's the same one as the quantity of objects, of features that I replicate on them. So I'm going to use 0.01 that count, and since I start in 0, I have to add 2, and I'm gonna hit OK, and the value object is gonna be the text 01 that, and I have to use the option text string. I'm gonna hit OK, and before hitting OK, let me close the Excel file. Okay, and let's go back to GC, and let's hit OK. So now GC is thinking, and it's should open our Excel file, which just happened. And we can see now that GC exactly wrote all the numbers that we have. All the amount of features that we have is the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 24. So let's do the same for the second row of components that we create. So let's create a copy. And instead of being from A3 to A, I'm gonna do it using H, since it's the H column. So we just have to change that. H. Let's hit OK. And for the text, it's gonna be the text 02. And let's hit OK. This is the value of, I'm gonna use now the second row of numbers that I create, and I'm gonna hit OK. So if we go here, we can see that GC created our 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 24, and then we have the component 25, 26, 27. So in this way, we already know the locations of our each component, and we can modify the values here. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this to Excel range that I create. Excel range, this is going to be ID component 1, and this one is going to be ID component 2, and hit OK. So if we go here and let's just match these numbers, 1, and this is going to be 2. So now the next thing that we have to do is we have to add some values in our Excel sheet so we can read those values from Excel. So the values that I'm just gonna write are random numbers for the height, for the X dimension, and the Y dimension. Sorry, this is YD. It's a wrong number here. YD 2 of our components. Sorry for that. So let's write some values here. So I started 30 and that one looks nice, so let's go 30, 40, 50, and let's just add some values like that. You can type whatever you want. You can control this way. You can, if you want to write a function in Excel, it doesn't matter, GC is going to read it as long as be a value, should work. So for the X dimension, I'm just going to type 3, 4, and I'm going to copy it. I want them look like squares, so I'm going to copy the entire column here. Then for this one, I want a little bit different. So let's copy. I'm just adding some random numbers here so we can work in GC. And let's here do something different. So in this way, each of our components is going to have, oh sorry, this one should be here, and the height should be, this way we went to 30 to 120, so let's start 120 and let's go 110, so we can go from the maximum value that I wrote to something low, and then let's go up again. Let's go really up. So in this way, what should happen is that the component, for example, the component number 30, the height of that component is going to be 70, the X dimension is going to be 4, and the Y dimension is going to be 1. And so on, each one of the components that we populate is going to have these dimensions of it. So that's very important, and that's the key for this. Right now it's just a box, but you can design whatever you want, and you can add these values to wherever you want. It could be a distance, it could be a height, it could be the aperture of one component, it could be whatever you want. So now we have to create a range feature in GC that reads all these values. So let's go to GC. Let's save this. It's okay. I already saved these transactions, and let's go to create new feature. Let's go to Excel range, and we're gonna use read value. So here is gonna ask to us the location of our file. So I'm gonna type the same. I'm gonna save OK, and the sheet name is the same, sheet 1, and the range, this one is now, it's gonna be the column B starting in 3, and I'm gonna end in the how many components I created plus these two. So let's go to GC, and it's gonna be B3. I'm gonna finish in B plus point of 1 that count, sorry, plus 2. Okay, and I'm gonna call it H, and okay. So if I go here, I have my first Excel range. So let's create all of them right now. So let's just create copy. The file is the same, the name of the sheet is the same, but the range is different. This time we're gonna use the column C, and so let's change this B from C, and I'm gonna start in 3. I'm gonna finish in the same number. I'm gonna hit OK, and I'm gonna call it XD. Okay, and let's create a copy, and the file and the sheet are the same. These ones are exactly the D column, so let's change it. Sorry for that. D, and let's say OK, and we're going to call it YD, and we're gonna hit OK. So before continuing, let's just edit our first components, which went from 0 to 1. So this component 1. Let's edit this guy using the edit button and clicking in top of one of these. And let's change these values. Let's now change H for H, XD for XD, sorry, and Y for YD, Y dimension, and let's hit apply. Oh, sorry, we have to use H that, and we have to type value. It's not gonna show up here, that's a bug, but that's the thing that you have to type. So I'm gonna, let me do it here, XD dot value. Okay, and let's do the same here, that value. Okay, and let's hit apply. So now we can see that, let me go to a monochrome, that GC is reading all the numbers from our Excel sheet. And if we want to know exactly the dimensions of one of our components, if we go to the wireframe view, we can see that the component number 20 has these dimensions: 90 units in height, 4 in y in x dimension, and 4 in y dimension. So let's just go quickly and do the same thing with our other components. So let's create another. Let's save this transaction, and let's go to create Excel range. I'm gonna do the read value. The workbook is the same. Data. Okay, and the sheet name is the same. The range, this one is different, so I have to go here, and is the column I. So let's go to GC and let's type I3. I'm gonna finish in I plus. Now I'm gonna use 0.02 that count plus 2. I'm gonna hit OK, and I'm gonna call it H2. I'm gonna hit OK. So now I'm gonna create the value of xd2 is the column J. So let's go here, create copy. The file is the same, the sheet is the same. Let's just change here to J. Let's hit OK, and let's call it xd2, x dimension 2, and let's hit OK, and let's create our last one that is gonna be, it's gonna use the range, the K column. And I'm gonna hit OK, OK, and now let's edit this guy, and let's change these values. Instead of being H, let's type H2 that value. In XD we're gonna use XD2 that value. In YD let's use Y dimension 2 second value, and let's hit apply, and let's close it. I call it something different, so let me just, oh, I didn't rename the last one, so I have to go here, rename. Let's just type here 5. Let's hit apply. I didn't change the name of the last one, so I have to edit, have to rename the Excel range. It was Y dimension 2. And let's hit OK. And now if we go back and edit our second row of components, I can use Y dimension 2 that value, and let's hit apply, and now we got it. So now all our components are being controlled from our sheet from Excel. So now something else that we can do, now it's just an extra fun, is since we placed this point in a coordinate system, we can rotate it. So now let's do that. Let's save our transaction, and let's go here and let's add one row here, and it's gonna call rotate, and I'm gonna go from 180 and then 170, and I'm gonna go all the way down. Yep, and here I'm just gonna use rotate for both of them. So let's create one more time Excel range, read value. The location of our file is the same. the oops. Okay. The name of our sheet is the same. The range address, we're going to use the E column. So we have to go E3, sorry, to E plus point of one that count plus 2. Hit OK, and I'm gonna call it rotate. Let's hit OK. So now I have rotate. So if I go and I want to edit this guy, I can use this value of rotation in Y, for example, here. So if I type here rotate and I hit apply, sorry, rotate that value, I hit apply. Now our component is rotating following the instructions, the values that we type in our Excel file. So let's do the same thing with the other component. We did it in Y, so let's type rotate that value, but now I'm going to do it in a negative way. So let's hit apply. Now it's rotating in opposite direction. So now I have my two components that are rotating, are being scaling, are being transformed from the values that I type in my Excel file, which is very nice. The last thing that I'm going to do is just extract some data from this component. So I'm going to create a new Excel range, and I'm going to use the option write value. The workflow is the same. The workbook, sorry, is that data.xlsx. Hit OK. Sheet name is sheet 1. The range, I'm gonna type it here from F3. So I have to go from F3 to F plus point of one that count plus 2. Hit OK, and the value is gonna be, I have to select the first components that we create. This is the name. I'm going to delete the index of this guy, and after solid, which is the solid that we create, I'm gonna hit dot and I'm gonna type volume, and I'm gonna hit OK, and I'm gonna hit OK. So now if we go here, GC extracted the volume from each of the components and post it here. So this is something also very important, is that you can start extracting all the data from your component. This this one is very simple. It's just a box. It's just, but you can extract volume, area, distance, the position of one point along one curve, the length of one line of your component. So if you're thinking in in something related, for example, for a facade, that you can control all the components in your facade from Excel, and in GC you can know exactly all the dimensions of all the elements of all the components that you create. So it's a very powerful tool, and I think that's all the things that I'm gonna do for this tutorial. It was very long, and I hope you guys learned something here today. And something that is important is that if I change something here in the Excel file, it's going to be automatically updated in GC, and if I change something in GC, Excel is going to be automatically updated, the file. So that's another way, very powerful way to work, and I hope you guys learn it, enjoy it, and thank you for taking the entire tutorial. I know that it's too long, but it's kind of complicated technique. And remember that if you have any questions, suggestions, please go to the forum and post your question there, send an email, and the GC team is going to be very happy to answer the questions. And if you want to continue learning or researching or doing something inside GC, please go to the next series. Thank you very much. That was all for today. Thank you.